Back in the day, societies communicated with each other by sending a messenger from one location to another. However, today we can communicate by telephones. So how did this happen? Well, most of this change happened during a 500-year period from the year 1377 to 1877. This 500-year period was very significant because it would allow us to contact someone who lives halfway across the world for a very cheap price, and furthermore, the delay time during this period was cut down from several months down to just several seconds. So our journey begins in the late 14th century during the height of the Silk Road. This network of trade routes connected the East and the West, and it spanned over 4,000 miles from China to the Mediterranean. And while the Silk Road is often praised for its role in commerce, it also brought vital communication artery. The merchants traveling up these routes carried more than just resources, they also carried letters from one society to another. Merchants served as informal messengers, delivering messages between rulers, philosophers, and traders. Now just imagine the amount of patience that was required to transport these letters. It could take months or even years for it to reach its destination. However, during this time period, it was very normalized because this time of communication was already the fastest it's ever been before. Empires like the Ottoman, Mughal, and the Ming also developed their own systems to manage internal and external communication. Couriers, sometimes on horseback, carried the messages within these vast territories, setting the stage for more formalized systems that could emerge in the coming centuries. Sometimes, if warfare was a problem, or if the climate was terrible, this could actually delay the amount of time it took to transport the letters. By the late 15th century, the landscape of communication began to change. In 1490, the Holy Roman Empire introduced the Kaiserliche Reichspost, also known as Imperial Mail. It was a revolutionary postal system that was designed to standardize and accelerate the delivery of letters. This system relied on relay stations where fresh horses and riders ensured messages traveled as swiftly as possible. The Imperial Mail operated on a network of meticulously planned routes connecting cities and kingdoms across Europe. For the first time, individuals could depend on reliable infrastructure to send and receive mail over long distances. This model would inspire similar systems across the world, which would make written communication more accessible and efficient. The 17th and 18th centuries brought further advances as maritime empires like Spain, Portugal, and Britain established global trade networks. Letters can now cross oceans aboard ships carried by explorers, merchants, and colonial administrators. These letters served as lifelines between distant colonies and their home countries, although they were at the risk of unpredictable weather and the dangerous sea. In the early 19th century, technological progress once again advanced communication. The advent of steamships dramatically reduced the amount of time it took for mail to traverse the Atlantic, cutting journeys that once took months down to weeks. Similarly, the expansion of railroads in Europe and North America revolutionized land-based communication, and by the 1830s, postal services were more reliable and efficient than ever before, enabling businesses, governments, and families to stay connected across great distances. These improvements coincided with the rise of newspapers, which relied heavily on postal offices to distribute information. As societies became more connected, the desire for faster and more reliable communication continued to grow, and this would set the stage for a monumental breakthrough. In 1849, Antonio Meucci, an Italian inventor, developed a rudimentary device capable of transmitting voice over wire, a precursor to the telephone. Meucci's invention demonstrated the potential for real-time communication, an idea that seemed almost magical in its implications. But Meucci's work had several disadvantages, including limited resources and a lack of recognition. Fast forward to 1876, when Alexander Graham Bell patented the first practical telephone. Unlike letters or telegraphs, the telephone allowed people to express how they felt at that moment, and it quickly became the most effective method of communication. The creation of the telephone would set the grounds for real-time international communication, where people could express to each other how they felt, and they could talk to each other at any moment. And it would also set the grounds for the modern cell phones that we have today, which does go beyond our scope of the timeline. Overall, the period from the 14th century to the 19th century was very significant because it allowed us to go from hardly being able to contact other societies to being able to contact anybody at the moment as long as they had a telephone. Now that just about covers 500 years of international communication. Thank you all for listening to my documentary.